So why is coaching across cultures important? Well, it's becoming a bit of a cliche, but the world is getting increasingly complex. And we see a growing number of multidisciplinary teams, virtual teams, global teams. And if you think of large companies with their many, many different departments, what tends to happen there is that people develop silo mentalities. So cultural intelligence is now seen as an important leadership skill. Daniel Goleman, the emotional intelligence guru, has identified cultural intelligence as a key skill for leaders today and in the future. What do we mean by cultural intelligence? Well, to my mind, it's a sensitivity and awareness to the fact that we all hold different perspectives, values, and beliefs, as shaped by our upbringing, our education, our professional training, and the social and work teams we belong to. Not least amongst these is our national culture. So by cultural intelligence, I mean the interacting, the communicating, and the managing in a way that reflects that sensitivity and awareness, acknowledging and building on diversity for a richer outcome. So let me say a little bit about our responses to cultural diversity. Interculturalist Milton Bennett has developed a model which describes the reactions to cultural diversity as ranging from an ethnocentric approach, which is very much about us and them, where we keep ourselves separate and deny the differences, to the other extreme, which is a more ethno-relative approach, being multicultural, accepting of multicultural approaches, where we accept that others see things differently to us. And then there's another stage beyond that where we can actually learn to adapt to the differences, where we have empathy for people who do things differently for us. And sometimes we can actually step out of the way we do things, out of our comfort zone, and adapt our behaviour so that they fall in line more with others. But it's about empathy and not total assimilation. We begin to hold different values, in fact. So what role does coaching play in developing cultural intelligence? Well, it's a common difficulty, the failure to recognise relevant cultural differences. So coaching, through its powerful questioning, encourages awareness and recognition of other perspectives. So we at the OCM have formed a strategic partnership with Philippe Rosinski. Rosinski is a world expert on cross-cultural coaching, and he has written 2 books on the subject, in fact. He has developed a cultural orientations framework, which we liked because it provides a non-judgmental language to help develop the awareness of diversity of opinion and perspective. It also broadens the cultural lens through which we view others and enables more creativity and innovative approaches to be adopted. It also increases organisations' resilience and resourcefulness in the face of diversity. Brzezinski's framework is a pragmatic and accessible approach to a very complex area. One of the main reasons we liked it is that it reflects the OCM's flexible and situational approach to coaching. It helps address those differences and diversity in a respectful and sensitive manner. So let me give you a little insight into Rosinski's framework. He has devised 7 categories, or identified 7 categories of orientations to pick up on the key cultural features that every culture actually contains, but which are the distinguishing characteristics between cultures. He defines an orientation as an inclination to think, feel, act in a culturally determined way, depending on the cultural context. And he provides a continuum for each orientation, from one extreme to another of a particular inclination. It makes the point that all cultural orientations have a positive and a negative aspect. So if we take as an example of one of those orientations, the time management orientation, depending on your personality, depending on your upbringing, where you've been born in the world, you will have a different attitude to time. Some of us think that time is very scarce and therefore we want to manage it very carefully. Other people think it is very plentiful, so they have a much more relaxed approach to life. So you can imagine in company how those two different attitudes might end up in a little bit of friction if there was a project deadline looming. Another example is in relation to communication patterns, and the continuum there stretches from direct on one level to indirect on the other. We, for example, might typify Americans as having a rather direct approach. They say what they mean and they mean what they say. Whereas, again, we might typify the Asian approach as being very sensitive to not causing offence. Therefore, they would adopt a much more indirect way of speaking and communicating. So back to the question about how we use the cultural orientations framework in coaching. All this knowledge about where our orientations might lie in a particular continuum, or indeed where our colleagues' orientations may lie, helps us to develop both self-awareness and an awareness of the different perspectives of our colleagues. This increased awareness gives us choices, and we can come up with different ways of communicating and managing and getting on together in the workplace. For more information on this topic, there are some great resources and links on the learning signposts.